Welcome to Trigger Proof with Mikki Bey, the podcast that helps you stop reacting and start responding. I'm your host, Mikki Bey, emotional regulation coach, speaker, and guide. Each week, we'll explore real stories, practical tools, and conversations that will help you stay calm, confident, and in control, no matter what life throws your way. Let's get started. Welcome to Trigger Proof with Mikki Bey, an emotional regulation podcast. I am so excited for this guest. First of all, she is a powerhouse in her arena. She is in DEI. She is a thought leader in emotional regulation. She is my sister. She's my friend. She is my client. And I am so excited for you all to meet Dr. Nika White. Dr. Nika White is so phenomenal in so many different ways. So I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the people in whichever way you'd like. You can take it whichever direction you want to go. Tell them who you are.
First of all, thank you so much, Mikki Bey. I am just as thrilled as you are to be able to hold this space for this conversation. And thank you for thinking of me. So how do I want to introduce myself today? I think I'm going to take a little bit of a different route. I am a woman on a continuous journey of growth through really intentionally fixating myself on all the tools, all the strategies, all the things that I've learned through being under your tutelage, as well as my own studying, to immerse myself as an emotionally regulated person. And I believe that so deeply that I want to just lead in with that today, because I think that's the crux of how I'm showing up today. I'm showing up very centered, very grounded, and really looking forward to this conversation.
Oh my gosh. I love that introduction. And just for the people's knowledge, like Dr. Nika, I call her Dr. Nika, but Dr. White, she is really a phenom, like truly. She is on corporate stages all over the place. She is facilitating like really deep work in the diversity space, diversity, equity, and inclusion space, and came to me and said, I want to expand my skill set to include emotional regulation. So we have been working on some things together. And I told her today, I'm super excited because I'm usually on this side on her platforms. So I'm so excited to have her on my platform today. So I'm going to dive right in. What was the moment for you that you said personally, as a high achiever who has all the degrees and is on all these stages and has all this notoriety in your field, that I need help with emotional regulation? What was the moment for you?
Well, there were several small moments that eventually led me to a place to where I felt I have to do something. So those small moments were things like I would notice that I was irritable, and the intensity of it sometimes did not match the circumstances. I would notice that I was not able to really focus and to express myself in a way where I felt satisfied, and that felt self-betraying because I'm a very expressive person and I really loved for people to understand me, right? And so that was a point of frustration. And some of my relationships were quite contentious, particularly those that are closest to me. As I started thinking about all those things, I realized that I am in this space of, while I do the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion, workplace culture, all the things, right? At the crux of it is well-being and making sure that people can show up at their best and to thrive. And I wasn't doing that. And I knew that I needed help. I didn't have the language for it. I didn't really understand what was going on, but I was a believer in personal development. And then comes this person called Mikki Bey, and I kept seeing a lot of your content. And I was like, emotional regulation, that is it. That is it. That is what I believe is missing in my life. And I reached out, we had some conversations, and the rest is history. And so that was really my invitation to get myself to the healthiest place possible. And I'm still on that journey, as I mentioned in my brief intro. But then in addition to that, I saw the power of it in terms of how instrumental and transformative it could be to the work that I was doing with many of the organizations and the individual clients that I was working with in terms of their challenges. And so it became then something that I felt I needed to really incorporate into my work and how in which I was supporting those that trusted me with some of their challenges and opportunities they wanted to optimize on.
I love that. I love that you mentioned like some of the, we'll call them symptoms or signs, right, of dysregulation, which at the time you probably couldn't recognize those were symptoms of dysregulation. You just knew something was off,
I knew
right?
something was off. I knew I wasn't at my best self, and I did not like feeling that way. And I knew I needed something. And that's interesting for me. I'm segueing slightly, but I think that so many people were me and are me in terms of knowing that something's off because we are talking more about mental health these days. So the stigma, while it's still there, it is starting to become more normalized of a conversation. And so I feel like there's so many people who are sitting back and they were like me. They're like, I don't have the language for it. I just know that something is not right. And there has to be a better outcome than what I'm
There's got to be a
experiencing.
better way.
It's got to be a better
Absolutely.
way.
That's my story too. I always say I was a life coach for 5 years before I started incorporating emotional regulation. And for me, it was such a game changer in my personal life that we have the exact same story. Once I started using emotional regulation for myself, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Every
I need to
woman,
get this
every
to the people.
person.
Yes.
Yeah, I gotta let the people know because it not only changes your emotional landscape, but for me, it has changed the lens in which I view anything. The
Absolutely. Yeah. The way we experience life, the way we experience joy, the way we really experience relationships. And so, what I love about this space of emotional regulation is that it is very horizontal. It's not vertical in the sense that it fits across every environment, every circumstance, every relationship. So, the people that are gravitating to this level of development, they're seeing, at least for myself and what I'm seeing with work that I'm doing, they're seeing tremendous strides in just experiencing life to at a higher level, higher vibrations.
Mhm.
Mikki Bey always says a higher level, simply because there is greater awareness. And with that greater awareness, now we understand how to activate the tools and the strategies that we've been taught, that we've been introduced to. And that is it's just helping people to live more fulfilling lives in the workplace and personal relationships, but all around. And that's what I love about it.
Yes. So I want to take us back to our first conversation, and I always pick on you about this, because I have to, because it's to me, it's so important that people understand that this is not always, oh yes, sign me up. You were not like that. You were
No,
like, I
not
know
at
I
all.
need something. Okay, let me let you tell it. What's your version of how we first met in our first conversation?
So let me paint this picture just for a little bit for your community. I am someone, people who are in my inner circle and they have experienced me. There's usually words like very poised, very well put together, very polished, always confident, very competent in how in which I show up. And I am a very competent person. So I wanted to paint that picture because this story is going to bring some context as to why I think that was important to name. So here I am. I am running my own business, working with so many different corporations, different leaders, C-suite leaders, and making great impact for them and their organizations. And I'm also harboring these thoughts of something is off. And although I am high functioning and I can mask it pretty well, I, on the inside, am betraying myself and I don't feel my best. And I want to change this. And so when I encountered some of your information, it intrigued me enough to say, okay, there's this language here that I think is describing my situation that I haven't really heard before and I don't fully understand. So let me watch some of the videos. Let me kind of call and get a little bit of information so I can see if it's something that would be really fitting for me. And I remember when I called, I was talking to one of your assistants and she was giving me the spill. And I had so many questions, probably so many questions that you weren't even anticipating. To finally, your assistant was like, hey, look, Mikki Bey, okay, I have this person who keeps calling. She has a lot of questions. I need you to talk to her directly because I'm not sure where she's going with this. I can only imagine what that conversation was. But I was showing up with great level of trepidation because I really just wanted to understand. And I can be somewhat of a skeptic. I almost need to know all the things before I launch into something. And the one thing that was the turning point for me in that conversation, Mikki, is when you said to me after I had expressed, you said, why did you come here? And you were saying, come here in terms of why are you interested? Why are you engaging to learn more? And I said, because I have seen a number of your videos because you provide all these courtesy videos to get us roped in, and they were so transformative. And you said, if those courtesy videos got you here because they were so transformative, then imagine what it would be like if you were actually a part of this program with all of the tools and the resources that's packaged in the way that I put it together for you. I was like, she got a good point. Why am I hesitating? And again, I think it was just part of my skepticism and part of, do I need to be emotionally regulated? Why am I questioning this when all the signs are turning towards this language is language that directly is describing my situation? So why am I letting some stigma of my own account keep me from pursuing this when I know that it probably could be the best thing for me right now? And I had a small window and you were like, listen, if you hang up on this phone, I know that you probably, because most people don't, you're not going to be able to secure this special offering by the deadline, which is tonight at midnight, by the way. And I was like, yeah,
And what time did you tell me yes? Do you remember the time you told me yes?
I don't know. I think I submitted it probably right at midnight. I don't know.
It was
But
like 11:59.
Are you serious? Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing.
You were in church because it was New Year's Eve.
Yes, it was New Year's Eve.
It was New Year's Eve. And I said, listen, my prices go up tomorrow. I said, I'm not playing with you.
To fail me. She probably tells this to everybody.
Now knowing what you
price for me.
But knowing what you know now, was I lying? Literally, my price went up right the next day. So I was like, look, I'm not trying to sell you on nothing. Do it or don't. If you want to do this, I'm telling you, at 11:59, that's your last opportunity. And when I say she slid in at 11:59 with a yes,
like, send me the supposed to been out by that time. I was like, come on now, quick, you gotta hurry up. I got something to do. I got my phone. I said, look.
So funny. It was so funny. But I like to tell that story because knowing what you know now, that was actually just what you're programmed to do. And I like to mention that because we all have a program that we think keeps us safe. That is exactly what the nervous system is here for.
Yes.
And so this has been your process. So here Mikki Bey comes and says, abandon your process and take this shot on yourself. You have so many, the ambiguity alarms are going off in your head. You're like, even though I done watched 6 of this girl's videos, I know what I'm going to go into, but I don't know it all. And what did I tell you? And you've done several programs with me at this point. And I always say, you got to take the lead. I cannot do this part for you. You gotta say yes. And once you say yes, I got you the rest of the way. I'm not going to let you fall. I'm going to be here with you. And I think really that's the magic of coaching. There is this reciprocal trust that has to be there, right? Yeah. And you know, from the work that you do and how you interact with your clients, there is there's this layer of trust. But really, if you think about it, and the way it's coming to me right now is almost like in masculine and feminine energy, where the masculine has to initiate, right? And then the feminine receives. This piece and this dance that we're doing from in the sales process, there is the initiation really from the client in the masculine energy saying, this is something I want. And then I present it, but you still have to say yes. You still have to say yes. And once you say yes, now the transformation can occur. And I always want to bring us back to that moment because you come so far from that. And I think when I think of your journey from the woman that I met to the woman I know now, to the woman who is not only trying to live from a regulated place on a daily basis. And I see you do this, right? To now teaching other women, other people how to live using emotional regulation as a lens. So bring me to the place where you said, okay, Mikki Bey got me together personally. Let me integrate this into my business. What made you say, let me build a program out and put this as the through line through all of your amazing work and your body of work? Why is it that important to you?
Well, first, thank you, Mikki, for your kind words. I received that. And I feel like you know so much about me that the depth in which I receive that is very genuine. So I wanted to acknowledge that. The next thing is that while you said, well, Mikki Bey has got me together personally, I have to just take a step back and say, and this is being under your tutelage, there is not a mastery of being emotionally regulated. We are always going to find ourselves where potentially we're going to be challenged by something, but it is about how are we leveraging the tools, the strategies to be able to get ourselves back neutral so that we don't let that overtake us. And I'm a natural overthinker, overanalyzer. And so recognize that. And that was important for me because I don't want to feel like I am on this journey to a destination. I want to always be cognizant of my need to be connected with community and all the things that has been in my path to help get me to this place of growth in this area. But for me, I really realized that in my work of diversity, equity, and inclusion, at the crux of it, I was always working with people that were marginalized, part of these historical disenfranchised communities. And we know all of the systemic challenges that come from trying to navigate the complexity of that. And what I found was that in my own practice, where I was providing these leadership development type of cohorts and communities of practice, what a lot of those individuals needed was to know how to become emotionally regulated. And so I saw this as a through line that was a big gap, quite frankly, that I didn't even realize was a gap because I didn't know about it until I had experienced it for myself. And when you think about the fact that the heart of kind of emotional regulation is getting us to realize that we only can control what we can control, and that so much is happening right now in society that is causing particularly Black women to feel even unsafe, even more unsafe than what they have been. They're the most unprotected community, hands down. And I work a lot with that community. And so I saw the impact that it was having for me and the transformation that it was having for me, that I felt that I really wanted to incorporate an experience where emotional regulation was part of the undercurrent of everything that we were doing in this community that I named Boundless. And it's all about well-being, empowerment, and leadership to really help Black women in particular, but women of color more broadly, to navigate all of the things that we have to experience every single day. So I have adopted the mantra that I've heard you say before. I teach this because I need this. And I tell all of my Boundless sisters all the time when we show up for those master classes or for our group coaching sessions that I'm not showing up to this conversation because I have this all together. I'm showing up because it fuels me to be able to share the growth that I have been transformed around throughout this process, and I continue to grow in, as a way to help them. I really do feel like it's something that I've been called to. And so, yeah, I teach this because I need this. And those are all the reasons that I wanted to start bringing it to other communities, and not just women. I have also, as you mentioned, Mikki Bey, I think that just leaders in general, we start to think about future proofing organizations, especially when we think about all of the complexity of the things that are going on. We're dealing with some things now that are unprecedented, and we are going to find ourselves continually met with different disruptors. And I think that the emotional regulation piece is something that every leader needs to have in their repertoire to be able to help manage and lead and thrive through uncertainty and through complexity. And so there's a lot there that I think creates value across many different communities and organizations and spaces.
I could not agree more. I can remember I was in corporate when George Floyd happened,
Yeah.
and I ended up writing a letter to the CHRO and the CEO for how they responded, and got a call from the CHRO the next morning because of what I wrote. And it was the first time I ever felt really led to reach out in that manner, like literally all the way up. But I felt like you all need to really know like how this is impacting people who are part of this community here. Right. And
Absolutely.
so there are so many things like that. That was like a really polarizing moment for our community, but there's so many things that are happening continuously that we have a very distinct perspective on, that as a leader, whether you agree or not, as a leader, you have to be able to bring everyone together who may have very polarizing views, especially in this day and age. And so I could not agree with you more on that. That is one of the missing pieces in leadership. You look like you want to say something. You want to add to
I
that?
was just gonna say it's a power skill, and we continue to talk about it as soft skills. And I believe that we
Yes.
need to change the language around that, because when we think about leaders who are able to operate with clarity, they're able to communicate effectively, they are able to hold their boundaries, they are able to not get flustered in a way where it could be to the detriment of the team, of the organization. It is because they have been able to be introduced to ways in which to show up emotionally regulated.
Yes.
And as leaders, we are constantly modeling within our organizations how others should be showing up as well. So if our leaders are discombobulated and they're not, and they're panicking and they're frantic, then what kind of tone is that going to set for the entire culture and environment? And I think that a lot of organizations who have really leaned into the importance of centering well-being, they're starting to catch on. Some of the early conversations that I've had to introduce emotional regulation as a community of practice and a way of upskilling leaders, people have been really intrigued. And so I've been met with a really pleasant surprise of people being receptive to this idea of bringing it into the workplace, right? Even though it feels very much like soft skills, I've been able to help them to realize this is what we need. If you talk about future-proofing your organization for, again, all the uncertainty and the complexity and the disruptors that are going to come, this is one of the ways to do that.
100%. I want to extrapolate that to your personal life as well, because you shared a beautiful story around your marriage about how emotional regulation has impacted your marriage. And so when I think about leadership, it's not just leadership in the workplace. It is
Mm.
being a leader or a co-leader in your household or as a parent or all the places where you hold all these titles. So I want to just like, for those of us listening and who are maybe just now hearing about emotional regulation, and we're talking about it as the through line, right? Like it touches absolutely every place. Can you talk a little bit about like the differences that you've seen in your marriage as a result of your emotional regulation?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So there's so many. Where do I start? First and foremost, I am naturally wired to be someone that reacts, and I'm very expressive. I'm an emotional being. There's some people who they just guard it in that regard, and they don't really let their guard down when it comes to their emotions. I am one that I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and those that are closest to me, they tend to know that and they experience that. Well, my husband is polar opposite. So sometimes my really letting my emotions to be one with my emotions, it can make him very uncomfortable. But I know I rely on him to co-regulate me when I am feeling flustered, when I am having a lot of anxiety, or I feel myself going in that direction. And one day in particular, I was getting prepared for a big launch and I knew that I was feeling off. I could tell that I had a lot of anxiety. I had butterflies in the stomach. My heart was beating fast and I just couldn't settle myself down. And my husband was racing, getting ready to go. So I knew that he had a timeline that he was trying to meet. But I just in that moment said, do you have a moment? Can you just come and sit with me for a moment? I'm feeling anxious. He didn't ask any questions. He finished what he was doing quickly. Then he came over, sat next to me. And for about maybe 10 or 15 minutes, we just sat in silence. And all he did was rub my shoulder. It was just his presence and his calmness. And literally, my heart stopped racing. I felt so much more calm. And I was like, okay, honey, I'm good. Thank you. You can watch your married now. But it was beautiful because, and I remember you and I talked about it afterwards in one of our sessions, and I shared that with you. And that's when you gave me some additional insight into co-regulation. And I thought, oh my gosh, yes. And so if we aren't willing to communicate what our needs are, then we're not giving people a chance to try to help meet those needs. And so when it comes to like interpersonal relationships, again, my husband's not someone that just naturally gravitates to, how are you feeling? What are your emotions right? What can I do? But immediately once I communicated that, and he had no idea what co-regulation was, but what he did was co-regulate it with me. And so that
Yeah.
is also what we can do to the many different spaces and places where we may find ourselves dwelling. Just our presence of calm, again, it models, it helps sets a tone. We didn't say a word during those 10 or 15 minutes, but it was the most powerful 10 or 15 minutes of the day. And I needed it. I needed it.
It's almost the content I have planned for this week is around co-regulation. That's funny because I literally yesterday, I did a reel about co-regulation, about how co-regulation works both ways. So if someone
Yeah.
in your life
Oh,
is always dysregulated and they are bringing chaos everywhere, you're regulating to that, right?
yes.
And the stronger nervous system on either side is going to win. So one of
Yeah.
the things that I tell people is that you cannot argue with someone where you're not at the same level. So when someone comes to argue with you, you will have to come down to where they are in order for you all to have an argument. If I am up here and I keep myself grounded, I keep myself in a regulated stance, they have one choice. They either have to come up here, right?
Yeah.
Or if
Yeah.
they're still down here, I'm going to self-select out. And so
Absolutely.
you cannot be in conflict with a person when you refuse to co-regulate
Yeah.
them. Then
Yeah.
you
The
make
power of
them
the
come up.
pause.
That's right. Power to
Power to
give them
pause.
a tool. Come on now. That's
No,
right.
listen, when aggression meets aggression, the conversation is over. No one is winning at that point. And
No
so,
one's winning.
and that's what, for me, I used to always think that, okay, it's okay for me to get triggered. And it is okay. Triggers are going to come.
Yeah.
It's okay for me to get triggered. And then I also used to feel that it was okay for my behavioral response to that trigger to be spiteful or to lash out or to argue. And the bottom line is that no, because that then is giving the power to the thing or the person that I feel like triggered me. And that's what we need to escape from. We only can
Yes.
control what we can control, and that is the internal environment, right?
That's
And
right.
so that pause is so important because even if it's a split second, it allows me to let all those emotions come, be with them, invite them in. It's totally fine. We're emotional beings. I know I am.
Yeah.
And then to ask ourselves, why are we feeling this way? Because most often it's really not about the thing. It's about something
That's
that's
right.
way beneath the thing, way something bigger, something that we've been festering and holding on to for so long. And so no wonder it becomes this explosive type situation if we aren't regulated. So much value
Exactly.
to it.
And my claim to fame is you're 100% responsible for your triggers, right? And people, when I
Yes.
say they were just like, what do you mean? Here's the thing: the trigger is on the inside of you, so the information is for you. Who cares
Yes.
who the messenger was? And we're not talking about their bad behavior. Their bad behavior is their bad behavior. Let's deal with that separately. But the trigger is showing up for you to get the memo. And so the tool that
Yes.
you're referencing is pause, breathe, choose, right? So the
Yes.
thing is happening in front of me. I'm going to take a pause. Usually we're going to ask a question there. We're going to say, okay, what's happening? You
Yes.
recognize the triggers that are present. So are you starting to get sweaty? So for me, immediately when I'm triggered, I start to get hot and I hold my breath. I immediately have trained myself that at the minute I start holding my breath, I know something's happening. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's for me,
Exactly.
if you're triggered, pause. What a pleasure. The reason why I'm saying what a pleasure is because obviously this isn't a pleasure. So I'm trying to trick my brain to give me a moment to say, oh, here's an opportunity for you to get a emotional rep in, right? This is the opportunity for me to practice what I know with emotional
Yes.
regulations. Pause. What a pleasure. And then I'm going to decide how I want to respond.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
react,
Yes. What is
right?
the trigger? What
So
is the emotional response? Yeah. So what is the
yes.
what is the behavioral response that we really want? Because oftentimes if we don't take that pause, we're just going to act out in that moment. But I love that you said what a pleasure. And in fact, it's so interesting. Last night in my group coaching, one of the things that I would share with the group was the example of how in which you talk about now, you've matured so much in your journey of emotional regulation that when it comes, you celebrate it. You're like, yes, growth moment. I get to learn. What a
Yes.
pleasure. And I'm like, it's going to take some time to get there. And I said, admittedly, I'm not there yet, but my coach, Mikki Bey, she is. And that's what I strive for. And it really just created this moment of people recognizing that while it feels really hard and uncomfortable right now, we do get to a point where we can appreciate it because we know that there's
Oh,
value
yes.
in it. And we can really see evidence of that growth and maturity. Yeah.
So, my program is built on 3 pillars, but the last pillar is appreciation. And I always say, even without the first 2, which I won't go over the first 2 right now, if you can just get to appreciation for letting the moment in front of you be what it is without it needing to change for you to feel good, that take you the whole way. That will take you the whole way. Do not push against reality. If it's in front of you, it's already happened. You are not
Yes.
going to be able to change it. The only thing you can do is decide what, if anything, it means to you and decide if you will interact with it. That's it. When I tell you, I wish I had another 30 minutes to talk to you. We must do this again. Dr. Nika, you have been such a blessing to me, both personally and professionally. We have so much more work to do together. I'm just so excited for all that you are putting into the world. It's honored and privileged to be your coach. You have no idea how gratifying it is for me to be able to coach a woman of your stature and your abilities, your intelligence, your poise, everything. So it is just such an honor, really, to be in your village. So thank you. Thank you for being here. And I want you to tell the people how to get in contact with you, and please plug Boundless.
Balance. Okay. So balance. In fact, we are getting prepared to do another kind of open enrollment period. And so stay tuned for that. But all of my information, the easiest way to find me is through nikawhite.com. I'm on all the social media platforms. And so you can gain access to to those platforms and connect with me there. But yeah, I would love to be in community with as many of you as possible. And Mikki, thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being my sister. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being my confidant. Thank you for being my coach. Just thank you. This has really been life-changing, and I owe so much of what I am experiencing in this growth and development period to you. And so I'm so glad we're in community with each other. Thank you.
We always want to cry at this. Like, we always tear it up with each other, but thank you so much. And we will see you all next time. All of these show notes will have Dr. Nika White's information there. So go ahead and check her out when you get a chance. And we'll see you next time. Thank you. Thanks for joining me on Trigger Proof with Mikki Bey. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're really ready to dive deeper, download my free emotional regulation bundle. It includes my ebook, workbook, and a masterclass to help you start regulating with confidence. Find the link in the show notes. And until next time, stay steady, stay grounded, and stay trigger proof.